To help us better understand the current landscape in the state of Kuwait, we are now joined by Mr. Sultan Alshammali, a leading lawyer specialized in international commercial law. Mr. Sultan, we thank you for your time with us here at KTV2 News.
Thank you so much for having me.
Mr. Sultan, let's get to it from an international legal perspective and the Strait of Hormuz. How can we understand the Strait of Hormuz from a legal perspective?
Of course, now the Strait of Hormuz is the backbone for our economy. We're not only talking about Kuwait, we're talking about the community of 6 countries, which is the GCC countries. And because this is the backbone of our way to export our sole economy, this is affecting us directly based on our economy, based on our medicine, based on our food. And this is considered to be from a legal framework, a vital breach to the freedom of passage. Now, this is all integrated within the UN clause, which guarantees the safe passage, the safe navigation. And because of the Strait of Hormuz, with its current situation, we are seeing that we are unable to travel as safely as previously when there was no tensions within the region. So this is more legal grounds to even file cases within the arbitration and in the international community.
We'll get to the arbitration side later in a bit, but about the passage, some say that, some argue that Iran has signed the UN clause in the 80s but never ratified it, and they signed it over the transit of innocent passage. So do they even have the right to close the strait, even though it's a strait for everyone?
Of course, like I said, this is considered to be according to the, we say in Arabic, قانون الملاحة البحرية, which is the navigation of the high seas.
Okay.
Now we could say that there is some certain landscape of the water allocated to Kuwait, to Saudi Arabia, to Iran, to Emirates, but there is certain passage that should be used by all countries, regardless of the nationality bordering to these waters. And because of that, them using this as a political way to increase tensions, to forbid us from navigation, is considered to be a criminal offense within the international laws. And them using that, whether they have ratified it or not, is also considered to be illegal. I'm only talking within the international law perspective, which we all abide to, including Kuwait.
Okay, and now, since we're speaking about the Strait of Hormuz and the legality about it, earlier in March, we have seen that the Strait of Hormuz has many factors related to it: shipping, insurance, commodity, also energy. They're all factors related to the Strait of Hormuz, and we can look at it from different perspectives. Countries that couldn't give oil or energy have declared force majeures.
Yes.
So they protect themselves. How can we understand force majeures from a legal perspective in terms of shipping or in terms of commodity or even energy? Some people think that force majeure is a bad thing, but I understand force majeure can be a good thing as we protect ourselves legally, right?
Exactly. Force majeure is a clause that we tend to use within our agreements with contracts, with day-to-day business, with sovereign countries, entities. And force majeure, by definition, means that when I have something that is to be obligated from my part, say for example, I export oil, and this oil is based from my country, I have the full responsibility to export it to a different country by extracting it, shipping it, and delivering the commodity or to the other party who have paid or haven't paid yet. Now, because this other party also entitled to have his goods delivered, then he could go ahead and file a case because he said, I didn't deliver my goods by time. But it's not up to us because these situations are out of our hand. We say in Arabic again, ظاهرة خارجة عن إرادتنا, which means that it's not from my side.
It's an external factor. We can't control.
Exactly. It's not by hand. This is subhanallah, yani something we cannot use, we cannot amend, we cannot adjust. And because of that, we tend to use force majeure. So when we see, for example, locally, to have a small example, we see the daycares. The daycares we have, say for example, I have a child, his name is Saif, and Saif goes to school. And because he haven't been attending now because of the situation right now, we weren't able to have the kid in school, and even the local authorities have banned to have kids going to school because it's not safe.
Okay.
So therefore, the daycare entities have been asking to pay the money, but we have been saying that this is force majeure. We not bringing the kid, regardless of the contract, is not from my side. It's not because I wanted to.
It's because of factors.
Exactly. External factors. And this is, yani, subhanallah, say for example, for a natural disaster, we cannot amend it. It's not because I have neglected my part. So we use force majeure to tend to escape or pivot crucial times.
Now, since we are going by this logic that because of some external factors that we can't control, then we have to declare force majeure to protect ourselves from other parties. We can't bring you the oil, we can't bring you the energy because of 1, 2, 3. So exactly here, who carries the responsibility and the burden, whether be it material, whether be it from the money side, who carries the responsibility? Is it the importer, is it the exporter, is it the one shipping?
Of course, it's considered to be sulta taqdiriya, which means that if there's a case, may God forbid, and this case is to be apprehended in court, then the court have the full capacity to put a verdict for that. They have to study per case. Now, usually, say for example, 50 to 70% is based on the exporter, because the exporter, the side of the deal or the site of the delivery of the good initiates firstly by the exporter. He extracts the goods, he extracts the energy, he manufactures the goods, fabrics. It doesn't even also apply only to energy. It applies to food, to other commodities, and he has the obligation to deliver these goods. But like I said, this is not within our hands. And we have seen that not only have Kuwait have tried to use force majeure, but even the GCC countries, say for example UAE, Qatar, Saudi, these all countries have tried to use force majeure because it's not within our hands.
Yeah, that's clear. And now, Mr. Sultan, if we take a look at the conflict from a different perspective, if we take at the political side, we see that after over a month of continued escalating tensions, we've seen that Pakistan came in the middle and tried to be a mediator between both United States and Iran. So can this also be applied in the Strait of Hormuz if the situation prolongs? For example, can there be an international arbitration where there is a third party involved?
That's a very good question, because the arbitration or going through the legal means have been available since day one. And I expect that these countries, us as victims, trying to protect our sovereignty, trying to protect our people, trying to protect the very lives of our children, have the right to go through arbitration. But for the time being, because arbitration would take some time, so we have a mediator, which is Pakistan, and Pakistan have been trying to solve this problem peacefully. We hope, inshallah, for the best it would. But I think by the time being, we need to wait, we need to study our situation until we would go ahead and go through to the arbitration.
But if it applies, the international arbitration, does it usually work? Is it effective? Like even historically, when we look at it, does it even work? Including a third party? Or depends on the situation?
It depends on the situation, exactly. But like I said, there is always a contract. This contract obligates me and a different party to stay on force, to deliver whatever agreement we have been applied. Now, sovereign countries also try to have a similar thing. But because it's a sovereign state, we're not talking about an individual with an entity, say, for example, a company or vice versa, or from individual to individual. When there's a difference, we could easily go to court, which is stronger than us, and within the means of the court, we have to apply the law.
But this takes time, no?
Exactly. But not only time, trying to apply the same theory with countries is difficult, because I cannot have a country willingly abide to the law, unless, may God forbid, we have to use force, which is the long route and obviously the dangerous route.
What about risks? If the risk is keeping to increase in the Strait of Hormuz, does this affect the shipping agreements we have in the GCC as Gulf as exporters? So for example, now we see countries turning, or the US president trying to turn countries to their oil and gas. So would this affect our shipping agreements in the GCC?
Of course, because at the end of the day, these countries need some sort of energy to keep their economy running. These countries don't have oil themselves. We see at the Far East countries depending on the Gulf oil. Now they cannot access it. We see countries, their economies collapses. This doesn't only specify within the region, but it impacts the whole economy of the world, given the fact that this route, or this Strait of Hormuz, accounts for 20% of all global trade by energy. And this is not a small factor to take into notice. This is why we see countries that are so far away trying to mediate, because at the long run, it will affect their economy.
Because others may try to find alternatives.
Exactly.
So this would affect the shipping agreements.
Exactly, because they're going to try to save their economies. They're going to try to mediate, pivot these crucial times.
That's clear. Well, Mr. Sultan, that's clear, and thank you. We'll be back after we take a look at this report. Now, dear viewers, the continued closure of the Strait of Hormuz poses a significant and far-reaching risk, particularly across the Gulf's economic landscape, where energy exports and global trade flows remain highly dependent on uninterrupted maritime routes. Prolonged disruption would not only impact oil supply and pricing dynamics, but also drive up shipping and insurance costs, placing additional pressure on regional markets and supply chains. From food imports to consumer goods, the ripple effects could extend into daily life, underscoring the critical need for effective market supervision, contingency planning, and coordinated efforts to safeguard economic stability across the region. Follow for the full story. And now we're back in the studio with our special guest, Mr. Sultan Alshammali. Mr. Sultan, now we'll get to the side of Kuwait internally. If we speak about Kuwait, how can the state of Kuwait contribute to stockpiling, contribute to price controls without affecting or conflicting with international trade agreements?
Of course, first of all, I would like to thank the efforts. These efforts are considered to be tremendous. And these efforts have been the safeguard for all of our people, whether it's an expat or a Kuwaiti citizen. It guarantees that our day-to-day life are met. These needs, say for example, medicine, food. Kuwait have taken extreme measures, and these efforts are very noticed worldwide, with the Kuwaiti government stockpiling and safeguarding these needs, not only for a day-to-day basis, but for the long time, for the time being, for the weeks ahead, for the months ahead, for the years ahead. And because Kuwait have been taking these measures, not only by safeguarding these needs, but also controlling the prices. Now, when I say controlling the prices, some people who, for example, would say sell some certain of medicine, these people need these medicine and they need access to these medicine. And some people who would have some greed in them and try to take advantage of that situation.
Stockpile.
Not only stockpile, they would prevent from selling these medicines, for example, or even food supplies. And because we are in dire needs for these food supplies or even medicine, then he would skyrocket the prices. This is where the government would intervene and guarantee that these prices would not take advantage of the people in Kuwait.
And about the state of Kuwait importing, bringing the stuff from outside to inside, food, medical supplies, are they legally protected, these stuff? What is the legality of this situation?
Of course they are protected. Like I said, there is tremendous efforts in trying to facilitate the import and exports of Kuwait. We're trying to go down the normal path, which we have been trying since before, as if there is any critical situation. These things are not going unnoticeably, but these are indeed by the facilitation of the Kuwaiti efforts and the Kuwaiti government. Like I said, if without these tremendous efforts, we would have a different time. We would have a difficult time trying to purchase simple goods, mashallah, by the Kuwaiti governments.
Okay, what about illegal? Is there a legal threshold at which temporary disruption becomes a material breach of contract at international trade?
Of course, there is no certain time for this threshold or certain period of time in order to balance it, if you would say per se. But like I said, it all would be supervised by the courts. It would be supervised by the Ministry of Commerce. If there is a breach of contract, then these things would be aroused in the court, local court in the judicial part. And if there's any problems, say for example, there, may God forbid, there's a dispute, then you would present this problem as per technicality of the current situation. Like I said, we are in different times, Mr. Abdurrahman. This is not a normal time, and everything has to be changed, amended to the benefit of the Salih al-Am, which is the general good of the people.
Yes, and now recently we have seen that some of the stuff are being, let's say, imported through rerouting. There is rerouting happening, so the stuff can arrive to the state of Kuwait or other GCC states. So can this be justified in terms of contracts, especially that some may find that it could increase the price for one party?
Of course, like I said, everything is being amended. This is why I have been collecting a lot of inquirements, asking me that, what about now? What should I do? We could only compare this situation with Al-Ghazu, which was the Iraqi invasion. It was dire times, may God forbid. And also the Corona times, where everything have been amended for the time being. We have seen that using the force majeure, such as we talked about in the first of the interview, these things are being used within the day-to-day contracts. These amendments have been applied to civil contracts, to marital contracts, to maritime contracts, all under one umbrella or saqaf wahid, which is the credit. Now, in order to balance this problem, you would use the credit letter. This credit letter is when two parties, say for example me in Kuwait locally, trying to export my goods abroad or vice versa. Now I wouldn't send my money straight away to that person because, say for example, I wouldn't collect that money because he also needs a guarantee. It's only fair. And this other party would only send the money through a mediator, which is a local bank. And this bank would be trustworthy. And this bank would only release the money when the export have been delivered. And we have seen problems because the exports haven't been delivered for the time being.
Now, I want to go back to the point you spoke about, that some company or prices may be increased. So the government is always watching, and there is supervision and efforts by the government. So is there protection for the companies, or legal protection for the companies who increase prices? Like, is there a time when companies really need to increase prices?
Of course. Now, like I said, this is a balanced equation. We cannot also force the companies to decrease their prices and not, on the other hand, try to be fair with them. Because if they are collecting loss or debit and they cannot make profit, then they are losing it in the end. Then there is no proper incentive to carry on this business. So it's a very delicate, balanced equation. Now, like I said, the company have been, or the government, the Kuwaiti government, represented by the commercial judiciary part, have been taking serious steps and efforts in trying to balance this equation. If there is no balance, then we would see some people, may God forbid, take advantage of the people. On the other hand, there is also a small increasement in prices because it's only fair. Like I said, it's cheaper, it's general knowledge to be deliver the goods through navigation, which is al-malaha, which is by sea. But if I'm going to use the aerial transport, it's going to be more expensive. So adjustment is applied.
And also, we're speaking of companies. If we take a look at the small-based companies in the GCC, or maybe more of small to medium enterprises, is there, they're mostly disrupted during such geopolitical tensions or any tension that happen. Would there be a legal exit or protection for them that protects them?
Of course, like I said, most of these companies, before even entering a mutual agreement, then there is a contract prior to that. And based on this contract, then it navigates the clauses if there is a disruption in delivering the goods or delivering the execution of the agreement. But like I said, many of those contracts have for overseen the clauses of the current events, which is the force majeure. This is why, like I said, many companies, many individuals who represent companies have been contacting me. What should I do now, Mr. Sultan? Now, we could go ahead in court and try to apply force majeure, and I'm sure that there is going to be, within the upcoming days, many verdicts that would be fair to both parties. Like in Corona times, within the Corona times, many people took to the court to try to amend, because
it happened before. So
it happened before because it was force majeure. It was out of our hands. It wasn't because I was neglecting the other part or I was trying to run away from the obligation.
Okay, and what about states or corporation that pursue compensation for economic losses caused by maritime disruptions? And what would such cases depend on legally?
Okay, like I said, this is all per se. This is all per case. Every case have its own digital, its own footprint. And this case, if I'm going to file a case, say for example, I have a contractual agreement with a muqawil, which is a person here in Kuwait who takes, in part, building houses, building buildings, apartments, and so on. And because these companies have an increasement in prices because they cannot export or import as before, then they cannot bear the prices that they have, first of all, agreed upon. And this contract could be 1 year ago. Prices 1 year ago is totally different than now. Exactly. So if I'm going to use the same cement price, the same gyps price, the same AC units.
They're not allowed to change it.
They are allowed to change it, but I'm going to have to file a case in court. Most people, even these countries, these companies have been contacting me saying that, can I change? Because I have a fixed contract. You can change because eventually you're going to lose money. It's no longer a profit.
But you have to file a case.
They have to file a case.
But this would take time.
This will take time, but it's only fair to adjust the prices according to Suq al-Am, which is the general prices of the time being.
Of the market.
Of the market.
Itself, yes. Okay, Mr. Sultan, that's clear. We'll get this report and we will be back for more in-depth discussion. Amid the evolving dynamics of the crisis, attention has increasingly turned to the United States' broader strategic posture, particularly its critical stance toward NATO and renewed questions surrounding its long-term commitment to the alliance. President Donald Trump's warnings about potentially distancing Washington from NATO have reintroduced uncertainty into transatlantic security calculations at a time when unity among Western allies remains a key factor in managing regional tensions. This raises important questions about how shifts in US policy could influence coordination, deterrence frameworks, and the overall handling of the conflict. This report has the details.